GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's watching.
Very good evening to you. It's Aaron Armstrong here at 11 o'clock in the GB newsroom. We'll start with the Prime Minister, who is facing a further challenge to his leadership after a second ally of Boris Johnson has resigned. Nigel Adams, the MP for Selby and Ainsty in North Yorkshire, stood down with immediate effect, triggering a third by-election in 24 hours. His decision follows that of Johnson and Nadine Dorries yesterday, and it's led to calls for a general election. Johnson made his announcement after seeing in advance a report from the committee investigating whether he misled Parliament. Shadow Deputy Leader Angela Rayner says it's clear Johnson lied.
Privileges Committee, a well-respected committee that are made up majority of Tory MPs, and he's just tried to trash them and say, I've got no responsibility, I've done nothing wrong. He's a man that can never hold his hands up to what he's done, and I think it's an absolute disgrace, and, you know, good riddance. He shouldn't have been in Parliament in the first place.
Former US President Donald Trump says he's the victim of a politically motivated witch hunt to keep him from the White House. Speaking at Georgia's state Republican convention, Trump alleged President Joe Biden orchestrated the criminal charges against him, describing the federal indictment as ridiculous and baseless. The former president is facing 37 felony counts in connection with the hoarding of classified documents, including US nuclear secrets at his Florida home.
They've launched one hoax and witch hunt after another to try and stop our movement and thwart the will of the American people. Every time you have, not even believable. Witch hunt, scam, hoax. It's called election interference, and they're doing the best they can with it. A
16-year-old boy has been charged with 2 counts of attempted murder and 1 count of grievous bodily harm after an attack at a boarding school in Devon. It's over a violent assault on 2 teenage boys and an adult at Blundell School in Tiverton. Both boys remain in hospital, one in a critical condition, the other in a serious but stable condition. The adult, a staff member, has been released. The teenager will appear at Exeter Magistrates Court on Monday. A second man's been arrested by police investigating the disappearance of a woman in County Antrim. 21-year-old Chloe Mitchell was last seen in Ballymena a week ago. The Community Rescue Service has been assisting police in the operation, focusing on the town's Braid River. A 34-year-old was detained in Ballymena this morning following the arrest of a 26-year-old man in County Armagh on Thursday. And Manchester City have won the Champions League for the first time, beating Inter Milan in Istanbul to complete an historic treble. These were the scenes in Manchester when Rodri put City in front after 68 minutes. Well, they held on to cap what's been an incredible season. City have become just the second English team after Manchester United to win the treble, adding the European title to the Premier League and the FA Cup. TV online, DAB Plus Radio, this is GB News. Now it's time for headliners.
Hello and welcome to Headliners. I'm Stephen Allen. Are you okay? You won't be when you hear who we've got on tonight to review the newspapers. It's Lewis Schaefer, and making her first appearance on this show, Kelly Taylor. Welcome to both of you. Good day.
Hiya.
It hasn't happened yet.
What hasn't happened?
Our day. We just started our day. You're asking how has work been going, and we just got to work.
You're leaving a lot of eggs in the basket if the last hour of the day is the only time for something good to happen.
And then you know what? You basically question my appearance on the show. So how do we know how it's going to be?
Good point, well made. Well, let's get into the front pages. The Observer goes with furious Tories turn against Johnson after bias outburst. Sunday Times, allies abandon Johnson as Tory mutiny falls flat. The Sunday Telegraph, Johnson orchestrates attack on PM over swindle. The Sunday Mirror, Starmer message to Sunak, general election now. Sunday Express, electoral slaughter. And finally, the Daily Star Sunday says, I saw the devil at the end of my bed. And those were your front pages. probably a different story, not sure. Kicking off the in-depth look at Sunday's papers, let's go to the Sunday Times. Lewis, what's on their front page?
Well, the Sunday Times has the big news, which is allies abandon Johnson as Tory mutiny falls flat, and the backing of the former Prime Minister evaporates as he quits. After he quits, and he is unlikely to seek a new seat. I guess what happened is he quit because he was being kicked out, because his own party turned on him.
But I suppose he wasn't being kicked out. The recommendation from the committee could have included suspension, which could have been long enough to then go to the Parliament to vote to see if they wanted to recall him, and then he would have had to go to his... Like the by-election, he could have got through the parliamentary vote, he could have got through the by-election.
I think at the end of the day, the Tories are dead. Temporarily. I think they're dead. It doesn't matter what happens. And I think probably Boris Johnson may get voted out if he ran again. So I think there's no future for the Tories. And I think that Boris Johnson sort of realizes that. I don't really understand the story.
I don't understand the story.
Well, I'm glad I'm in good company.
It's none of my business, to be honest. I don't know why I'm here.
My question was going to be, can you be temporarily dead? Because you said they're dead temporarily. I think you're thinking of sleep.
No, this is what I'm thinking. I'm thinking that every political party seems like they're dead forever, but they eventually make a comeback. Labour made a comeback. The Tories made a comeback after all those years. But I think here's Louis Schaefer's political assessment of the political situation right now. You take it for what it's worth. I think the party is divided, and they feel that they were cheated over COVID, and that they're being cheated over Brexit as well. Another group have been cheated. There's people who are, and they haven't let the cards fall where they may. The cards need to fall on the ground before they're picked up.
Oh, and you're poetic.
Yeah. Any idea what that metaphor is about?
It's none of my business. I don't know what's happening.
Yeah.
But when it comes to...
Wait, can we just stop? Let me be the incompetent one. We're going to have to...
This rating's real little. It's very little.
Yeah, that's true.
And, again, it's none of my business. I don't think I could say it better than you did.
Yeah. I think basically... What do you... I think the Tories are in trouble.
Yeah. Boo.
No.
No. Yay.
Yay.
Look at that for balance. We achieved balance without words. What else? Where else on TV can that be achieved? Ooh,
Beautiful. That's magic, is that?
Sports crowds.
Right.
While we're on the front page of the Times, there's an underwear story.
Yeah, and also the NHS wants cancer advice label on underwear. It wants to... As every older man knows, sometimes bad things can come out that end, and we don't know it's bad. And it says basically they want to put a label, say, hey, you know, if you see anything that's untoward coming out of your bottom, this is the NHS. They want to stay relevant. They want people to think about the NHS every second of the day.
They just want a sign by reading it. There'll be a sign in the gusset that says anything suspicious.
Like litmus paper.
Yeah, and it maybe just shows up when.
And it goes out yellow, and you go,
like
oh.
invisible ink.
Yeah.
And it just says like, say it's sorted or
Why
something
not
like
put
that.
it on toilet paper?
That would make a lot more, because my point was going to be, it's not as if underwear is only used in one setting, the toilet setting. It's taken on and off in other settings, the more romantic ones.
You don't want to read it then?
Yeah, I know it would be upside down from your point of view then, but still. Or maybe it wouldn't.
I don't think women spend that much time looking at a man's underwear. At least they never... Well, maybe they do. They do. They do.
No.
They do if there's something, you know, that doesn't look quite right down there.
I promise you, if I see something untoward in a man's underwear, I'm not going to go...
No, you're not going to. You're not going to. But it gets pointed out some point later on in the relationship when you're fighting.
And when you say reading underwear, you mean the words, not in like reading tea leaves. Next, we go to the Sunday Express. What's on their front page?
It says electoral slaughter.
Oof.
That sounds frightening, doesn't it?
Yep.
But I don't know what it means. What do you think it means?
Well, this is all about the fact... Well, these two stories, I suppose, front pages are almost arguing, like, oh, no, some people have resigned. Oh, no, it's not made a difference.
Is that what's going on?
Some people have resigned.
It's so...
It's the Daily... I think the Express... What the Express is saying is that Boris will be back bigger than ever. And the Times is saying that Boris has no future. And my guess is Boris has no future because he hasn't taken enough of the people enough of the people are not willing to sacrifice the entire party for Boris Johnson, considering he didn't fight for them when he should have fought for them, which was the COVID issue. He didn't fight for them, did he not?
I don't like him.
You don't like Boris Johnson?
No,
Any
he's got
particular reason?
he's got stupid hair. Have you seen his hair?
Oh, yeah.
I'm somewhat jealous, if I'm brutally honest.
No, you're not. It's like candy
Control.
floss.
I could win that battle. He loses that. Although we all know the story that apparently before he does any public speaking, he roughs up his hair to maintain the character.
Like a big bear, isn't he?
Yeah, but he knows it works for him. It's the "have I got news for you" touch, isn't it?
I don't like him.
Oh, really?
But Kelly, isn't it true that at least he's spending time focusing on his hair, which gives people like you a bigger opportunity to mess with his hair and make some money off of it?
I suppose. I don't understand how he's so hairless everywhere else, though. He's like a smooth lozenge.
How would you know that?
You can tell that man's hairless, like a fetus.
So, Sunday Mirror next, Lewis. Anything different?
No, the same thing. This is Starmer's kicking in, saying that he wants a general election right now. Of course he wants a general election right now because he can't get any more popular than what he is. Or let's put it this way, the Tories can't get any more unpopular than that they are. And
Hey, never say never.
never say never, but it's not going to end well for the Tories. The Tories made two big mistakes, which is basically they didn't decide what kind of party that they wanted. They should have chosen pro-Brexit, anti-COVID, or COVID denial, whatever it is.
But didn't at least some of that started to happen? If you go Theresa May to Boris Johnson, and then there was a getting rid of anyone who had any history of Remain. If you'd voted Remain, you were not going to end up getting a good position.
Yeah.
But these things level off with time. So eventually, the inner sanctum of Boris's arrangement lost their jobs, ended up getting removed for whatever reason, and then you start to be replaced by people that you might have disenfranchised earlier and then now have power. So then you get, this is just coup, then the other coup, then the other coup. That's how it works.
Well, I think it works that way because we've got a British political parliamentary system, which is it is not something that I think is the best system because everything is done behind closed doors through negotiation. That people are being kicked out. There are coups. There are backstabbing. In America, there's no backstabbing in America. Everything is done right to the face. They're getting Donald Trump right in the face. Ron DeSantis is going after Donald Trump right in the face, even though he was the presidential he was the president. And it's like they're saying, that was 2 years ago. What have you done for us lately? You haven't been president. So it's all this backstabbing that's going on. I think Boris Johnson cannot be trusted by the rank and file. They still like him. Am I right about this? This is my opinion. Tweet me. Tweet me on...
This is when he gets the pictures.
Yeah.
And then finally, we can move to the Sunday Telegraph. Kelly, what's on their front page?
Someone scribbled a load of stuff on my paper. Which one am I looking at?
We can mention that, of course, they've got Johnson orchestrates attack.
Okay.
Every newspaper... I think we've just covered it. I'm fairly sure.
Is it the football? They've done some real good football, haven't they?
I mean, good. I think no one around this table knows anything about football.
They did some kicking.
Well, I do know about it. Is that Manchester United, who it seemed like at the beginning part of the year were kind of down and out because Arsenal was making a comeback, and their comeback petered out, and next thing you know...
So you said United, this reads Manchester City.
Manchester City.
Okay.
What's the difference? Anyway.
Very good at sports.
You're right. No, he's very good at sports.
Yeah.
The BBC story on the front page.
Oh,
as well.
that little bit there down at the bottom. Oh, yes. They're trying to be more inclusive and liberal with their recruiting, aren't they? I don't really understand what that means.
They want to hire more people like you.
What? Hairdressers?
Is that what that means?
Yeah.
Actually, that would make a lot of sense, to be fair.
Well, they want to ask you before they hire you what your father did for a living when you were 14.
Yeah, that's the survey that went around when I used to work at the BBC, because they just can't ask you outright,
Yeah.
are you posh? Are you like me?
I am obviously posh.
Of course you are.
Right.
But the way they ask it is like, what did the main breadwinner of your family do when you were age 14?
Ah, that's
I
sneaky.
had to work that out. That was tricky. I was like, I need a pen and pencil. Don't I?
Yeah.
Oh, my
And
dad
what to
drank
write to your dad?
Yeah.
He's in prison.
Got to track him down first. This is about the whole story is based on one line from a leaked minute that says the committee discussed analysis and ways of the BBC ensuring diversity of thought. Have they approached you to do anything, Lewis?
No, because I think the BBC is not even a media company. It's not like a newspaper or a TV station. It's owned by the state. It's the state propaganda network, and I think it's the greatest threat. I wouldn't say the greatest threat to this country, because it isn't a threat. It is just plain bad. We don't need a state propaganda, and to top it off, they make the people of the country pay for it through their license fee.
Yeah, they've not approached you. Weird, isn't it?
But isn't that just like Netflix?
It isn't like Netflix, because Netflix doesn't come to your house and tell you, if you do not pay, we're going to put you in jail.
No,
They
but
do
if you
it
try and
for
share
big- yeah,
that,
they do.
that's where they get you. Well, that's all for this section, but coming up, we talk Wuhan lab leak. We fan the culture war, and if we can find a trans story, we've got the GB News trifecta. We'll see you there.
First and foremost, I am a GB News fan, and I was before I was working here. Just love the fact that we're asking the questions that a lot of establishment media won't ask.
With a bit of a twist, we not only want to inform you, but we want to keep you entertained.
It's worth the drive, because you get in and the team's all ready and waiting, they're itching to go, and it's a proper little family.
GB News is the People's Channel.
It's the audience that makes the programme sing.
We're giving our viewers and our listeners a voice. I see the thousands of your letters, tweets, emails, you name it, coming in.
Britain is broken. How on earth did we get into this mess? But more importantly, how do we get out of it?
The establishment had their chance. Now we're here to represent you.
It's time for something different. It's time for GB News. I'm very patriotic. I believe in Britain. Our best days lie ahead.
Britain's watching.
Britain's watching.
Join us here on GB News.
The People's Channel.
Britain's news channel.
I'm Simon Evans. Join me on GB News for Headliners at 11 p.m.
What's the scoop?
I'll be joined by two of the country's top comedians.
That's right.
As we take a look at tomorrow's newspapers tonight.
We're going to get into trouble.
If it's a big story, we'll be covering it.
Spill some tea on him.
There we go.
But we'll also have some fun.
I wouldn't stick up a bank.
My father didn't love me.
So anyway,
Headliners every night from 11 on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Westminster is going around in ever-decreasing circles, followed by the media. Britain is broken. How on earth did we get into this mess? But more importantly, how do we get out of it? Join me at 7 p.m, Mondays to Thursdays on Farage, here on GB News. We will have open, rational debate. We've got to work out how Britain moves forward from this. Join us here on GB News, the People's Channel. Britain is watching.
I'm Andrew Doyle. Join me at 7 o'clock every Sunday night for Free Speech Nation, the show where I tackle the week's biggest stories in politics and current affairs with the help of my two comedian panellists and a variety of special guests.
Free Speech Nation, Sunday nights from 7 on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel. Monday to Thursday nights on GB News. At 6, it's Dubes & Co. 7 o'clock, Farage. At 8, join Jacob Rees-Mogg. And at 9, Dan Wootton Tonight, followed by Headliners. On TV, radio and online. This is GB News. Every Sunday from 11, join Michael Portillo.
There will be topical discussion, looking at the week before and the week to come. So kick back and relax at 11 a.m. on Sundays on GB News with me, Michael Portillo. GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
GB News Radio.
Welcome back to Headliners. I'm Stephen Allen, still here with Kelly Taylor, who's on the show for the first time, and Lewis Schaefer, who always looks like he's on the show for the first time. The Sunday Times, Lewis, if ever there was a man that I should ask about what happened in a laboratory, it's you.
Or you could say, if it's about COVID, you shouldn't ask me about it. It's the Times, the fabulous Times. It says what really went on inside the Wuhan lab weeks before COVID erupted. And it's a huge investigation that the Times had done, and not one little bit do they mention Anthony Fauci and the fact that the U.S. government was giving Fauci was giving money.
Well, to be fair, if you read the whole thing, or maybe listen to it like I did, because
all right, they did say that.
Yeah, there's a bit about the American funding the research post SARS, thinking, oh, let's look at these coronaviruses to see what we can do. But that funding eventually stopped. And then what happened? And
then the Chinese people. And what they are saying, first we'll say what they're saying, is they're saying the bat cave hypothesis is that it comes from bats who had sex with other bats, and then they went into the Wuhan thing.
If I don't know, they're blind. They can't see.
They can't see. And then they went into the clinic where they were mixed with other stuff. Right, and in the Wuhan laboratory, and it exploded. It got weaponized, so they weaponized the virus. And so what this story is the Times basically saying that COVID was real, and it was really real. Here's proof that it's really real. This is full-on Murdoch propaganda.
Right. So how much of a denier are you? Because I know previously, twice on this station, you said you don't think viruses exist.
Yes.
Do bats exist?
I believe that bats exist.
So
I believe you can probably get sick from bats. I think it's just about building fear.
Quick question.
Yeah.
If viruses don't exist and this whole thing was fake, then why were they investing, researching after SARS?
Because it's not exactly, these aren't viruses that are making people sick. These are bits of irritation that are flowing through the environment that make people sick. It's not the same thing. It's not like it's irritation. And the theory is, I don't necessarily understand.
So somehow once a summer, your herpes irritation comes back.
Well, exactly. Well, the herpes is proof positive that viruses don't exist. Because pointing to you. You can point to anybody. Is that where is the herpes virus? Where is it? It disappears completely.
Doesn't it stay dormant in your spine?
Yeah, no, it's not in the spine. They've looked for it in the spine. They've looked for it all over the body. It doesn't stay dormant.
It's usually on your lips.
Basically, what it is it's like basically what happens is that somebody gets weakened, their immune system gets weakened, and their cells break, and the breaking of the cells put out something that
Are you a doctor?
I'm not a doctor, thank you.
You sound like one.
I don't, but it's about a question is, who benefits from saying that this is a real thing?
Chinese people.
Chinese people get to be like, oh my God, Chinese people are capable of destroying the world. And it's also, we get to benefit because we then think to ourselves that this was a real thing, that we're glad we locked down, we're glad we went into a panic over this thing.
Oh.
Yeah, what do you think?
I mean, yeah, Kelly, your thoughts?
I don't think anybody doesn't think it wasn't on purpose, surely.
Right, on purpose.
It was on purpose.
Yeah.
Because that's not what they're saying. And they're saying a lab leak, as in they were working on... There was a technique...
And they've done it on an accident.
Yeah.
Yeah, but some of these labs, apparently they were running on what they call, like, bio-level 2 security, which is akin to the level of PPE that your dentist uses.
And I don't want to sound like a massive overgeneraliser.
Yeah, leave that to me.
But aren't Chinese people extremely good at being efficient? They don't just accidentally walk out with some virus on them.
You're not thinking of the Germans?
Yeah.
Maybe I am.
Yeah.
What do they look like?
Well, let's move on now. The Metro, Kelly, and the shocking story of what can happen when someone isn't delivered for days from Amazon.
Rufflecopter. This story made me cry like a little baby. This is the most amazing thing. These children that just got lost in Colombia in a plane crash just are fine.
Yeah.
How's that work?
Yeah.
Because I know plenty of kids that couldn't survive on their own in the house for a couple of days. But these kids were, like, in the jungle. I imagine that they were fighting, a bit like, Jewel in the Nile. Do you remember that?
Yeah.
Yeah, like that.
OK.
Do you remember?
There's no evidence of that part of it, but...
Is there not? I did read it. surprisingly. And it's just really heartwarming.
Yeah. I really, there are so many details, like the fact that they found fruit that had been eaten a bit and there were little bites out of it with a child shape.
Footprint.
Yeah.
Just footprint.
I mean, I suppose this is just tracking in the wilderness, which is not impressive to people who know how to do it. But for me, I'm like, oh, my, they found stuff that show that they were still alive.
Well, I think they were also local indigenous people who were capable of doing that. I guess they they recognized it. And I tell you, the jungle is very different than what people think the jungle is. I've actually been to the jungle in this area, not there, but right across the border in Ecuador, in the Ecuadorian jungle. And the surprising thing about a jungle, as we see it, is like you've got to hack your way through it. It isn't that way at all. It has a high tree canopy, and down below it's quite open. It's almost spacious.
So what you're saying is these kids should have survived, otherwise they would have been idiots?
No, I wasn't even thinking that, but that's a good point. I was thinking it's very easy not to be found because there's a very high canopy, and it's not like you could see the trees moving while they're walking through. I think it is an amazing story.
Yeah, they survived a plane crash. That's exciting enough.
Yeah. And none of them had to eat each other.
No, that's
so it went really well.
That's a
All these years I've been mocking Bear Grylls, but actually I would not know what to do. I know what to drink, but the rest of it...
Dock leaves, that's all you need.
The Observer, Lewis, and is the government stoking the culture war, or is that exactly what the woke blob would say?
You know what? This is the government fanning, quote-unquote, culture war over free speech, says UK's first LGBTQ plus history professor. And the history professor, of course, is at Oxford University, which is slowly becoming maybe the worst university in the West. It's the same thing happening in America, too, is that the more prestigious an organization is, the more it's collapsing, especially right now, is that you can't trust these people. These people are... So what the story is basically is that this guy who's reporting in The Guardian, the Express Observer, is basically reporting that there is no cancel culture, that everybody's allowed to speak, and that it's always been that way. So you should stop complaining about it. Isn't that what he said?
That's nice.
If that would... Well, that's what one person's saying.
That's what one person is saying.
Yeah.
Do you think that that's what he's saying? Did I get the story right?
Yeah. No, do you think that... well, the accusation that we should be talking about, rather than just being universities, that the government's fanning the culture war. Do you think the government is fanning the culture war, would be the question, the nub of it?
Yeah.
I think... I would say no. I don't think the culture is capable... I don't think the government is capable of fanning anything. I don't think people are listening to the government, so how can they be fanning it?
But we've read out, stories to do with using the phrase small boats, finding these issues and talking about them front and centre. That is talking about the stuff that would get the argument going, and that argument is the proxy for the culture war, isn't it?
Personally, I don't think that these discussions would be had anyway, whether the government were discussing it or not. People are coming over, 600,000 people are coming. If the government said they weren't discussing it, I'm pretty sure other people would discuss it.
Interesting.
Oh, I think it's lovely.
You enjoy a culture war?
I love a culture war, yeah.
Yeah.
I just think it keeps us on our feet, doesn't it?
Better than an actual war, isn't it? If you had to pick...
Gun to my head, yeah.
Yeah.
Culture.
Well, no, if you're gun to your head, you're in the other one. But if it was just tweets, that's a culture one. I'd go for that if I were you. The Observer, Kelly, and just when the police had such a good reputation, what are they doing now?
Oh, is this about the black people staying in prison longer than the white people?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I did read this and I was thinking, how can you not say it's a little bit of racism?
Let's find out when Lewis disagrees after you've finished explaining the story.
But Lewis, though, it says it.
It says it. No, it must be true.
So come on.
Yeah, you know what? It might be true. I don't believe anything. First of all, we should preface every single story that's in all of these papers as probably untrue. And so when I say this is untrue, you don't accuse me of something, some nefarious evil
you say
thoughts.
that on a newspaper review show, we should preface every story with, it's in a newspaper and therefore it's not true.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Why are we even doing a newspaper story? I can understand why we're doing it, because they're watching it and they're thinking, oh, somebody mentioned The Guardian. Oh, that's good. This is a real TV station, a real channel.
I don't read the newspapers because I've got Netflix.
Yeah.
So this is all new to me.
Right.
Exactly. But you were wrong, Steve. The point is, we should be telling everybody out there that every one of these stories is probably a lie.
Here's what I was saying.
Yeah.
You can't say it's a lie because it's in a newspaper. You should say it's a lie because it's wrong.
You're right. You're right.
I knew.
Okay.
I thought I would.
How is it
They're
wrong?
right.
Tell me about.
Well, first of all,
wrong.
what he's saying what I'm making is a fallacious argument, because I'm sort of an odd hominem.
That doesn't mean what she thinks he means.
Sorry. No, don't hit me. Hit him.
So you're saying that this isn't true? You're saying this is all
I'm saying
false?
it sounds true. It could be true.
It reads very true.
It reads true. We don't know the entire circumstances. We don't know why people are being arrested, why they're being
But you say
held.
that they're being held 70% longer.
Those are the ones. You know what? It seems realistic, but it's in The Guardian, so my natural tendency is to think...
We're back to the fallacious argument. The Independent, Lewis. The National Lottery is releasing some more balls.
Yeah, well, this is you're from Birmingham, right?
You are hilarious.
Where are you from?
I'm from Hull.
Oh, you're from Lull.
Kingston
You're from
upon
Lull.
Hull.
Kingston upon Hull. You have a proper name and you can't use it. You call it Hull. Anyway, so this is in the Independent, Steve. It says Birmingham named the luckiest city to live in the UK by National Lottery. And the National Lottery has named Birmingham as the luckiest place to live because it had 205 multimillionaires since 1984 that came from Birmingham, which is far more than the 174 that came out of Belfast. But they didn't point out that is it a per capita winning, because Birmingham is the largest city apart from London.
Yeah.
Okay? It is the largest metropolitan area of a unity, right? Okay, I think. Whereas Belfast is a tiny little country, probably all of Northern Ireland has close to the population that Birmingham has. And so they didn't do it on a per capita basis.
Why are you trying to ruin the fact that Birmingham's lucky?
They're not lucky. I'm saying they're not lucky, and that they should work harder.
But the question would be then, why is London not the top of this? With more people living in London, why is it that Birmingham has more winners?
Because probably Birmingham, because they didn't mention London in this, but probably London has 32 boroughs and one city. And when somebody wins, it's allocated to the borough. To Croydon.
Could be. Or it could be the fact that London's far more likely to have people with so much dosh. They ain't buying a scratchy on the way home, are they?
Yeah.
No, they're not buying a bottle of Prosecco and a scratch card and having a cry in the park.
No,
I went to university in Birmingham. I love the place. It's lovely. It's lovely around there.
They've got real funny accents, haven't they, there?
That's why we moved away. Didn't want the kids to have that.
Yeah, you don't want that.
So that's it for part 2, but don't worry. Next, we'll go for part 3. We'll talk bombers, shooters and people who work from home, and let's see which one winds you up the most. We'll see you there.
It's all about family, being in people's living rooms, all the interaction and getting to know who our viewers and listeners are.
When I was young, my dad used to say, Nana, stop arguing. I wanted an outlet that would enable me to give my opinion.
People are going through a really hard time right now, and I know that you don't feel like you're being listened to by the establishment.
I came to GB News because it's the People's Channel, and I want the audience to have their say on the events of the day.
We're dynamic. We do something different.
Democracy shows that the wisdom of the nation is in its people.
I get to travel to find out what the story is from a personal perspective.
The British people aren't fools. We know when we're not being told the full story.
We've got to work out how Britain moves forward from this.
It's the best country in the world.
The establishment had their chance. Now we're here to represent your views.
Britain's watching.
Britain's watching.
Britain's watching.
We're proud to be GB News.
The People's Channel.
Britain's news channel.
Join me, Patrick Christie's, Monday to Friday, 3 till 6. We tackle the day's news agenda like you've never seen before. It's high tempo, high octane, the most controversial topics, and the best guests. You will not be able to take your eyes and ears off it. I'm not afraid to ask the questions that you really want answered. 3 till 6 p.m, Monday to Friday on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Join us every night on GB News at 11 p.m. for Headliners, which is 3 top comedians going through the next day's news stories, which is exactly what you need, because when the establishment has gone crazy, you need some craziness to make sense of it. So join us 11 p.m. every night on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Camilla Tominey, on Sunday mornings from 9:30, taking the politicians to task and breaking out of SW1 to see how their decisions are affecting you across the UK. Bursting the Westminster bubble every Sunday morning, only on GB News, the People's Channel. Britain's watching.
I'm Jacob Rees-Mogg, the Member of Parliament for North East Somerset and a former government minister. For years, I've walked the corridors of power in both Westminster and the City of London. We need to have the arguments, the discussions on how we make it better.
Crop failures, famine, war, suffering on a scale completely unimaginable.
We are putting the cart before the horse. As Charles I said at the scaffold, he was the true defender of liberty.
Yeah, I've completely derailed the conversation.
Join me Monday to Thursday at 8 p.m. on GB News, Britain's news channel.
So Jubes and Kerr, we tackle the issues of the day with real, robust debate, both sides of the fence, battling it out with me in the middle with my forthright opinions and views. And often really interesting things happen because you start with a position and then by the end of the debate you find actually, well, I might not have thought about that one.
What we need in this country is 2 new political parties.
You should maybe think about doing a 2024 calendar. I'm Michelle Dewberry and I'm keeping you company right through until 7 o'clock this evening.
GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's watching.
Welcome back to Headliners. The Mail on Sunday now, Kelly. John Lennon is getting a bit JFK.
This is so exciting. So there's 2 shooters of John Lennon.
I mean, it's shocking. How have they worked this out?
Because there's a couple of different kinds of bullets in his body, apparently. That sounds fancy, doesn't it?
Yes, and why has it taken this long?
Laziness, probably. Yeah, I don't know it's taken so long. It's probably in that story. But don't you think it's exciting? Also pointless.
It's unbelievable. I think you had the nail on the head. This is one of the most pointless stories. My head is filled with conspiracy theories and conspiracy facts. I've got too many. I'm working on our virus is real, and then they're coming with John Lennon. And I remember when John Lennon was shot. I'm old enough to remember this, and I was actually a young man when John Lennon was shot. And it was
you got an alibi, right?
It was, I lived on the east side at the time, so they found extra slugs. Did they find the slugs inside the body?
Oh, were they behind him?
They were behind him.
Yeah.
But New York was so dangerous at that time. There were gunshots all over the place. It was proper dangerous. I remember driving around New York and you see the gunshots. It was like a Mexican birthday party. It was very bad.
But hasn't anybody thought of just saying to Mark Chapman, "Oi, did you do this on your own or not?"
What, the sports presenter?
Yeah.
Oh, not the one on the BBC?
No, that's David Chapman.
No, that Mark Chapman, the guy who shot...
Oh, Mark Chapman, yeah.
I love how people have always been obsessed about the book that he was
Mark
carrying.
Chapman,
The gun was a bigger issue.
Right?
Yeah.
And that book's boring.
No, that's exactly the point. The point is that if he would have said something. It wasn't just me. I got convinced into doing it.
Yeah, he'd be all like, "Oh, it's
he'd
not
be
my
all
fault."
over it.
God.
Well, it was fun and then we ruined it. Look at that. Let's move on to The Independent, Lewis, and someone's life sentence has just come to an end.
You could consider this a good thing, or you could consider it a bad thing, that Theodore Ted Kaczynski, known as the Unabomber, has died in federal prison, and he was the guy who from 1978 to 1995 basically was trying to kill mathematicians and scientists because he didn't believe in that.
Someone who doesn't believe in science.
Yeah, I don't want to say, but this is almost I don't really want to joke about it, but this is like because I'm not going to do anything horrible. I'm not going to. But he's a guy, and he went proper loony. He was a brilliant scientist himself, or a brilliant teacher, university professor, and he went into the woods and he just sent bombs to people, and he wrote a manifesto. And I think the interesting thing about the guy is he wrote a manifesto explaining what he wanted, and the Washington Post actually printed it and in his handwriting, and asked people out there in America, do you recognize this handwriting? And do you recognize this guy? And his brother, Ted Kaczynski's brother, ratted on
Little
him.
snitch.
Little snitch. Is that I think you got to. You got to.
Yeah, you do. I suppose you do in real life.
In real life, because somebody else is going to be killed.
No, he's my son's favourite killer.
Oh, really?
I've got a little lad called Blazer, B-L-A-Y-Z-A-H exclamation mark.
Yeah.
And he loves the Unabomber.
Why does he love the Unabomber?
Just thinks he's real good at writing and it's just fancy. It just makes a change, doesn't it?
Yeah, it's 35,000 well-read, well-written words.
Well, before we start moving into the area of endorsing it, the Mail on Sunday, Kelly, looks like I missed another chance to get some money out of Channel 4.
Oh, Open House, where they were paying people to do dirty things at a TV show.
Yeah.
At least they get paid for it.
Well, it's like, I mean, it's prostitution, isn't it? Really?
So talk us through. So there's a show called Open House.
Yeah, it's called Open House, and they paid OnlyFans actors to come and do filthy things with the contestants, which makes me sick.
Yeah.
It's disgusting. I don't like it. But did you watch it?
No, didn't watch it.
Are you going to watch it now?
Loved it.
No.
I don't think you should because it's filthy.
And does it actually show actual sex
I didn't watch it because I don't watch filth like that. But they encourage people to experiment
with each other.
Yeah.
And so this woman is there.
Yeah.
Why do you call her an actor? I mean, these aren't acting. They're not acting.
No,
they're actually doing.
Might be acting.
They're hookers.
They're hookers. They're
I
hookers.
ought to say that.
So they basically brought in the hookers.
Yes.
Okay. And I like what this hooker said. Well, she was brought into the show, and she said, OnlyFans is helping me live. I'm chasing my dreams to be a Twitch streamer.
Oh.
Do you know what that means, though? That is a technical phrase. It might sound medical from your point of view, but Twitch streamer is the actual phrase.
I know. It's
every little girl's dream.
It's every little girl's dream. How long has Twitch been around? For a couple of years only, and it's like it's a step below YouTube.
You're selling a calendar of yourself wearing...
speaking of my calendar...
I haven't even mentioned it.
Speaking of my calendar...
Observer, Lewis, and they've given you another story about working from home. Are you getting any hints yet?
Well, it says UK firms without flexible working, quote, will struggle to hire in the next 5 years. And this is the Guardian Observer. I don't know, they still call it the Observer. I don't know why they haven't changed the name. But this entrepreneur, who's the Tory mayoral candidate, her name is Natalie Campbell, and she says that she's the leader of the 4-day week, and she's hoping to cut the amount of hours that people are working, okay, in the office. And she'd like fewer hours to work in the office. And this is a perfect story for The Guardian because they're a charity and they are basically the newspaper of people who don't work very hard.
Why are people upset about working from home?
They're not upset about working from home. They're upset because they are going to have to stop working from home, and they quite enjoyed working.
No, but the point is, I think this story is saying that if you don't like working from home, the truth is, if you've got all of these vacancies, unemployment's so low, it kind of skews the market. And if you want to hire someone, you might have to say you're allowed to work at home sometime. Like, it's a supply and demand story rather than we don't like working from home story.
But I think the reason why it's in The Guardian is because they want to keep this stuff going. They want to enact it into law to make it okay for people to work at home. That's what The Guardian is for.
It's already legal to work at home. Is it not legal to work at home?
It is legal. It is legal to work at home, but that doesn't mean that an employer has to be is forced to let them work at home. And that's what this is. They want the employer.
I've got a salon. No one can work from home there.
No, they got to
move in.
No, you don't want hair splinters around your house.
No.
House, you say? OK. The Mail on Sunday now, Kelly, and traffic delays due to vampires.
Totally believable story. Where is it? There's somewhere, Poland, they found 450 vampires buried.
Yeah.
So it's true, because, again, it's in paper. And what they do is they cut the heads off the vampires and put them between their legs, because that'll fool them.
Yeah.
In case they come back to life and bite.
And they can't put their hat on. So it's going to be real tricky, I think, all round. But what a great story. But there's a little bit of transphobia in here. because they found a female vampire. How do they know?
Well, you can tell from Jeanette. That's what we've been spending.
No, they don't know
last
she identified.
Whether she identified, right? Okay, you're right. You're right.
But it's exciting about vampires, though.
It is exciting.
It's pronounced Transylvania.
It is exciting. It's exciting that it's in Poland, and it's pretty close to the village where my ancestors lived. And one of the reasons why we had to hightail it out of there. You forget how barbaric the people who were living in Middle Europe were.
Is that why you don't go out during the day?
That's why you said the day's only just begun at the start of the show. It all checks out now. You would do avoid garlic, mainly because all you eat is uncooked meat for the blood. Oh, wait a minute.
Do you know something that's, you know what, that's really, really rude of you, because I've heard that many times. When somebody says they eat meat, oh, they're a cannibal. They just equate it immediately.
I'm not calling you a cannibal, I'm calling you a vampire.
Yeah, because of the blood, but actually blood is the only thing you should be drinking. You should not be drinking water because it lacks ionization and possibly could be dehydrating.
You are definitely a doctor.
I saw that on a thumbnail of a YouTube video.
You've read it in someone's pants, probably. That's it for part 3. I'll let you guess which part comes next, but it will include the solution to global warming that will leave you feeling moved, and a ban on sex on the beach. That's what the windbreak's for. We'll get the full stories next.
I joined GB News because I was sick and tired of not hearing my views being represented, not just mine, but so many people that I knew and spoke to.
I just couldn't get my voice out there. I couldn't say anything. I couldn't do anything. Whatever the narrative was, I kind of had to follow it.
GB News is there to provide a voice for those who have been ignored by the establishment media. We think different things, we've got a different style.
GB News is here to be optimistic and positive about the future.
It's real kind of dynamic and flowing, with the audience very much at the heart of it, like a big family.
Here at GB News, we talk about the things that matter to you.
Hearing the voices from right across our towns and cities, especially our towns.
All sides of the argument represented with a heavy dose of opinion.
We're on a mission here to make a difference. And the GB News family really is here for you, and whatever time of day you can watch or listen.
Britain's watching.
Britain's watching.
We're proud to be GB News.
The People's Channel.
Britain's news channel.
I'm Mark White. As GB News Home and Security Editor, I cover those key issues that are so important to you. Our authorities, our communities doing all they can to combat violent crime. With the public services under unbearable strain, why are we still failing to control our borders? Defence, the first priority of any government, has been continually hollowed out. Can we trust our politicians to protect the armed forces? Join me, Mark White, on GB News.
Monday to Thursday, 9 p.m. till 11 p.m. Join me, Dan Wootton. I'll bring you the sharpest takes and hottest debates. Do you not believe in prisons?
I don't believe in prisons.
I'm completely stunned. I guarantee you there'll be no spin, no bias, no censorship.
I actually was personally quite offended by it.
And no reason to go to bed. So I guess they've always been quite woke. That's Dan Wootton tonight on TV, radio and online. Monday to Thursday from 9 p.m. till 11 p.m. on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
You've probably seen politicians interviewed 1,000 times, but we do it differently. We find out who they really are, we don't shout, we chat, and hopefully we bring a bit of light, not just heat. Did you know Kate Moss?
Apparently.
Do you have a pair of jeans or a pair of jeans?
No, of course I don't. What would I do with them?
My friends are like, oh my God, what's she doing now?
Join me every Sunday at 6 for Gloria Meets, only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Start the day with GB News.
We catch up on all the big stories you didn't hear the night before.
And take a look at what the world's talking about this morning. That's right, Monday to Thursdays from 6 o'clock. It's Breakfast with Eamon and Isabel.
Straight after breakfast, join us, Bev Turner and Andrew Pearce. We're going to take you through till noon.
We'll be tackling the big topics of the day, including the things that the other channels just won't talk about. If it's happening here. Wake up to mornings on GB News, the People's Channel.
Britain's news channel.
Welcome back to Headliners. Let's go on to the Mail on Sunday, Lewis. And there's a solution to global warming and also making those pesky short years that little bit longer.
This is a very interesting story, not for what's in the story, but what is basically not in the story. This is the Daily Mail. It says exclusive, so it's not in any of the other newspapers. The solution to global warming is that we should move the Earth away from the sun. And it says astronomers know full well that the sun is very slowly getting brighter, and in 1 billion or so years it will make the Earth too hot to live on. And what's absolutely ridiculous is that Velikovsky is the only thing you need to know, and I've said this many times. You could, in the drinking game, you press Velikovsky. Is that this has happened before? Basically, it's about moving the Earth further away from the sun, which actually slows the year down by making it go an extra 5 days, which is why all of the calendars in ancient history were 360 days. The Mayan, the Chinese, the Jewish.
Oh, so you think it's not to do with their lack of precision? That's why we have 360 degrees in a circle?
Yeah.
You think it was that the Earth was 5 days' worth of being closer to the sun?
Yes.
And why did we move further away?
We moved further away because we were once part of this Saturn heliomass. And then
the
Saturn. We were part of Saturn.
And the sun?
You will have to look up Velikovsky because I'm not 100% sure of this. But basically, what happened is that Saturn had an electrical discharge which discharged a huge mass into the solar system, and the Earth went free floating into space while Saturn moved further away. And it changed the whatchamacallit from 360 days to 365 days. But if this was erratic, if say one culture said one thing and one culture said another, one great book said one thing, one great book said another, that would be one thing. But was 360 days.
Everyone thought the speed of light was variable until Einstein, therefore that many people can't be wrong, so we should believe the original premise.
No, but when it's cross-cultural, you have to think, well, maybe there's something to it.
All cultures thought that the speed of light was variable until Einstein.
Now, first of all cultures...
So, we've got to move on. I'm running out of time. But we should do a spin-off show. I could do this.
Yeah, that's a fallacious argument.
It's nothing of that shape at all. Observer Kelly, there's a ban on sex on the beach. I only did it because of peer pressure.
Lol. Yeah, in Via, you're not allowed to do sex on the beach anymore, and it's all nudists. Now, I'm going to say something controversial.
Yeah.
Show me a nudist, I'll show you a massive pervert.
Oh.
It's weird. Stop it.
Wow.
Don't do it. Stay at home.
But if everybody, can I just tell you something, Kelly? If most people are nudists, then they can't be called perverts. The people who keep their dress.
Most people aren't.
No, but it's happening. More people are willing to...
Where are you going?
Is it happening to global warming? Gets warmer, take more clothes off?
I don't see people naked around the place. Where are you going?
I did it in Orpington in Kent, when I used to live in Kent.
You're a massive pervert.
There's a nudist camp. And I was hired to do a stand-up gig there. And
in the nude?
I didn't know it was a nudist camp until they booked me for it. And then,
sure.
You know what, they send details like the week before the gig, and I was like, wait a minute, what, eh? And no, I refused to do it naked.
Good for you.
Thank you.
Oh, okay. Why is this? Are you not?
If they'd have given me enough time to lose some weight beforehand, maybe. But you can't tell on the week of the gig telling me to turn up naked. I couldn't even sort out the tan lines.
Weird.
The Observer, Lewis, the awkward issue of tipping. And if you do like tipping, I do have a Ko-fi account.
Yeah, well, obviously, because the Guardian is the paper of the of waiters and.
So it's the people who didn't work.
They're the tipper. It's the newspaper. The people who work for the Guardian don't really work. It's a charity, but the actual people who read the Guardian, they're all waiters and.
So the story.
The story is
more?
Who tips more? Germans or the French? And they only check 6 countries, according to YouGov, which is, I guess, the easiest way. They don't even have to make a phone call and ask people their opinion.
Say the word Germany.
And so the Germans tipped the most.
Brilliant.
And what they said basically, was, would people be willing to give more money even if they knew that it's a 12% tip that's put on the check? And they said 72% of Germans give more money even if it was 12%.
Because I'm not real tight.
Yeah. Well, I do because they're presumptuous. And in New York, you don't put this on the check. And so people give money.
5% is
I don't do it. It's none of my business.
Yeah, that's.
I just round up.
And then Sunday Times, Lewis, they've got you talking pants.
Talking pants in the Sunday Times. So this is what Calvin Klein. This is an Calvin Klein style macho adverts alienate men. And I'm not going to admit that I actually love these kind of ads because this is what real men should look like. They should look like Justin Bieber. The guy's like real man. That's what he's saying. But I don't remember that. It says basically by showing real men, which they mean macho, bloated, muscle-building men, which I don't.
It looks peculiar.
It looks peculiar.
Yeah.
And it's not healthy.
Would it make you buy those pants, even though I suppose you might not be
I don't buy a lot of men's pants.
What about for your husband?
I don't have a husband.
Oh, you don't have a husband?
No,
What about... Would you buy them for Louis Schaefer? Anyway, what they're trying to...
No, you pants. Do you need pants?
It'd be nice to be bought pants. Sometimes you know men let the pants go until they don't, until they're no longer
Is
pants.
that why you've got no pants on?
It's the nudist show, and so basically what they're saying is there's a heavy toxic masculinity, and these images make men think of toxic masculinity, and they're obsessed with toxic masculinity.
So a few more times.
They're blaming Andrew Tate.
For the fan thing. Well, I think we somehow understood that. The show is nearly over, so let's take another quick look at Sunday's front pages. The Observer, furious Tories turn against Johnson after biased outburst. Sunday Times, allies abandon Johnson as Tory mutiny falls flat. Sunday Telegraph, Johnson orchestrates attack on PM over swindle. The Sunday Mirror goes with Starmer's message to Sunak, general election now. The Sunday Express, electoral slaughter, and finally the Daily Star, breaking from that other theme, gives us I saw the devil at the end of my bed. And those were your front pages. That's all we have time for. Thank you to my guests, Louis Schaefer and Kelly Taylor. We'll be back tomorrow at 11 p.m. with some other people. And if you're watching at 5 a.m, do stay tuned for breakfast. Until then, have a good one.
Velikovsky.
First and foremost, I'm a GB News fan, and I was before I was working here. Just love the fact that we're asking the questions that a lot of establishment media won't ask.
With a bit of a twist, we not only want to inform you, but we want to keep you entertained.
It's worth the drive because you get in and the team's all ready and waiting, they're itching to go, and it's a proper little family.
GB News is the people's channel.
It's the audience that makes the programme sing.
We're giving our viewers and our listeners a voice. I see the thousands of your letters, tweets, emails, you name it, coming in.
Britain is broken. How on earth did we get into this mess? But more importantly, how do we get out of it?
The establishment had their chance. Now we're here to represent you.
It's time for something different. It's time for GB News. I'm very patriotic. I believe in Britain. Our best days lie ahead.
Britain's watching.
Britain's watching.
Join us here on GB News.
The people's channel.
Britain's news channel.
I'm Simon Evans. Join me on GB News for Headliners at 11 p.m.
What's the scoop?
I'll be joined by two of the country's top comedians.
That's right.
As we take a look at tomorrow's newspapers tonight.
We're going to get into trouble.
If it's a big story, we'll be covering it.
Spill some tea on him.
There we go.
But we'll also have some fun.
I wouldn't stick up a bank.
My father didn't love me.
So anyway.
Headliners every night from 11 on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Westminster is going around in ever-decreasing circles, followed by the media. Britain is broken. How on earth did we get into this mess? But more importantly, how do we get out of it? Join me at 7 p.m, Mondays to Thursdays on Farage, here on GB News. We will have open, rational debate. We've got to work out how Britain moves forward from this. Join us here on GB News, the People's Channel. Britain is watching.
I'm Andrew Doyle.
Join me at 7 o'clock every Sunday night for Free Speech Nation, the show where I tackle the week's biggest stories in politics and current affairs with the help of my 2 comedian panellists and a variety of special guests.
Free Speech Nation, Sunday nights from 7 on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel. Monday to Thursday nights on GB News. At 6, it's Dubes & Co. 7 o'clock, Farage. At 8, join Jacob Rees-Mogg. And at 9, Dan Wootton Tonight, followed by Headliners. On TV, radio and online. This is GB News. Every Sunday from 11, join Michael Portillo.
There will be topical discussion, looking at the week before and the week to come. So kick back and relax at 11 a.m. on Sundays on GB News with me, Michael Portillo. GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.